Hey everybody, this is PD from the Spinner Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
today we're doing Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. After many moons, they're finally putting this thing out, and we are going to react to it. Ready, set.
4 years ago, I was basically unemployed, a wanderer with no home. But now, I'm a husband and a father, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
The husband.
How you doing, Pops? My job was a little less stressful than yours. Oh yeah, I finally got a job. I'm the king of Atlantis. 500 million people from every known species in the sea call this place home. But that doesn't mean they all like me. I'm gonna kill Aquaman and destroy everything he holds dear. I'm gonna murder his family and burn his kingdom to ash.
He must be stopped, or a global meltdown is imminent.
I think I know someone who might be able to help us. Ooh, you look rough. What's that, little brother? High five. Do not call me brother. I cannot believe you let this happen. Yeah, well, I hate this job. True king builds bridges, right? True king builds bridges. We need to find Manta. He's different now. He's stronger than before. It's the Black Trident. During King Atlan's time, there were 7 kingdoms. The Trident was a curse upon them all.
Trident's dark magic is spreading.
He means to end the bloodline. I don't know what lies ahead, but we can't leave our children a world without hope. You're not as bad as he says you think. If you lead, the 7 kingdoms will follow.
Here we go, Mira. Find Mira again.
If you lead, the 7 kingdoms will follow.
There we go. We just had her.
That was it. That was the whole thing.
There's Mira. There we go. I mean, come on. He's got a kid. And they trapped his wife somewhere. This is what was happening to these movies where we know, like, it's crazy because like they had some stuff set up for Flash that didn't ultimately come to fruition, and we have these bits in these movies where we lose a ton of whatever they shot for whatever reason before this whole trial happened, but then they decided to cut more after that. But here we go, the Aquaman trailer. And what do you think?
Looks good. Looks real good. Though that opening part did throw me when he said he's a husband now. I was like, husband? Well, who's your wife?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I didn't, I was like, wait a minute. And then if I had seen the trailer before, I probably didn't hear that part didn't register with me at least the first time. And I'm like, I don't remember any sequences with him. I see him with the kid. I don't see him with the wife. And then you pointed out that one spot there. I was like, oh, there was Mira. I was like, no wonder I didn't see it. That was like really quick. I didn't even know that was her. That could have been anyone punching that glass.
It actually still can be anyone, but uh ultimately, you know what? The funny thing going to the first one was a little, I kept calling it big budget. Tromaville had the big action stuff, had some Flash Gordon thing, but I think at the core of it, especially when they were playing off of the joke of him talking to the fish, where none of the other people really do that in this sort of franchise. Um, they had hard at the end where it was like saying he was prophesized to defeat this monster, and he runs to the monster and he says, "So you're supposed to defeat me?" He said, "No, I'm here to talk to you." He's, "Oh wow!" Someone, and they had a good angle, a good heart at the end of this. So hopefully this one has it, but it ultimately has the hard case of, you know, them trying to end the movie franchise line of what's going on here with the James Gunn taking over. So we had James Wan, who from I guess a bunch of movies, connection to the Mortal Kombat stuff, the Fast and the Furious, and what's the other thing? There's something else that he did. Oh, I guess he did this. So he was in the Star Trek. He did a Star Trek thing, but this was the biggest. This is like the biggest thing that he did, and so they finally letting it out. But sadly, they're going to. They couldn't just allow Aquaman to be the success he was. I mean, a billion. That's for Aquaman. It was the ongoing joke that was in what's the thing, the Entourage, where it was, I guess, based on who's that, Mark Wahlberg's life. Well, he probably had Aquaman as a project tied to him, or maybe it was something else. But they decided to say Aquaman for the humor. It's still been played as a joke on so many things. And we've gotten the big. They've even used the classic outfit. It's a little too shiny for me, but it looks good. I mean, I wish it wasn't as shiny as it is, but what can we do? They like to have their shiny stuff. The actor who played Black Manta, I didn't really like his performance. I liked Black Manta when he took off the mask. I wasn't really with it, but when he was just in the mask, that was cool. So, and I've liked him in other things, but he's been kind of a little extra in these things. So hopefully, it brings a little more, something more to this one. And any other thoughts?
I like the fact that they brought Black Manta back as the main villain. We're going to up the power level a little bit more or a lot more. However, this falls in line with the theme that I pointed out across the Spider-Verse, where in order for these villains to be taken seriously, they have to get like world-ending power. That's the only way that they can be taken seriously. So I'm not too sure about that. In the comics, he's always been a capable threat for Aquaman with just the abilities that he's bringing to bear. So I'm not sure why he needs a trident, that type of stuff. And it does show the disconnection between understanding why these characters are viable in comics and what they think they need to do with them in the films. The other, well, aside from the fact that he's a husband who's not with his wife, and I have no idea if Mira is his actual wife, but that's something else we can discuss later if you actually want. The the idea that Aquaman is a regular guy. He's doing diapers. He's got his laundry hanging from the line. He's going to get a beer with his dad. He's fighting undersea monsters. He's communicating with them telepathically. He's pushing back submarines larger than anything that's ever been created on Earth. But hey, he's an everyman at the end of the day, because doesn't every man do that? That part right over there always cracks me up, because they want viewers to this whole idea that we're supposed to relate to these characters, which I think is crazy. But he's just like us. Look at him. He's just putting his trousers leg on one leg at a time, and doing these particular things just like you. He's just doing a little laundry, and look, now he's holding up a mountainside. So I always find that thing to be funny. I like the shiny armor. It's supposed to be armor, might as well be shiny. Yes, if it's underwater, probably a little bit duller, but hey, who knows? The Atlanteans probably have like really good, no rust stuff at the end of the day. But I just like that I've seen so many movies where they seem to shun or run away from anything that's bright, any colors whatsoever that are resplendent. So I don't have an issue with it. It definitely makes it different than a lot of the other stuff that I've seen.
Well, going on to the other thing, like, what did you want to talk about with Mira or Amber Heard?
Well, is she in the movie or not? This is, I understand that Amber Heard has a whole bunch of issues outside of the movie, but Mira, the character, doesn't.
Yes.
And we've gotten to this strange point. We've gotten to this strange point where the fiction somehow has to be in line with reality, and it's two different things. It's like, did you hear what happened with Ashton Kutcher?
heard it's some sort of case someone's trying to bring back up, or something that they.
No, there was some cat that he was well, this cat went to jail for sexual something. I'm not exactly certain what it was, but he was found guilty. I think he got a bunch of time. And some people wrote letters in support of him saying, hey, you know what? In my experience, this is what this guy has done. And of course, they're reaching out because they know this dude. I mean, even though this guy's being convicted of this stuff, they still know him. They know him as a friend. He hasn't done
I'm
anything.
talking about the actor though.
Yeah,
The
yeah. I think, what's his name? Like Ben Masterson or something?
Yeah, the person from that '70s show. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know the zeitgeist right now is that if you do something bad, everybody's just supposed to shun you. Everybody's supposed to abandon you. How dare you do anything to support this dude or anything of that nature? Even if you guys have been friends for life, it's like, oh, I didn't know this about you. I can't, do anything to help you, support you. You deserve hell, and that's pretty much the end of it. These guys write this now. They're after him to the point that he had to step down from some organization that he was at. Similar stuff over here. I mean, but for me, this is worse because her crime, okay, is prevaricating or flat out lying when it comes to the case that she had with Johnny Depp. And now these guys, I mean, that's not a crime. Okay, it's socially unacceptable, but it's not a crime at the end of the day. And now we can't see her in this film, or they're reluctant as to how much exposure she's going to get through the film because they're simply worried that they're going to get canceled by people who are never going to see the film in the first place. They just don't want to see her in it. So for me, it's like you have to make a decision as to what's fictional, what's real. What was filmed before this type of stuff was going on? Are we going to tell this story? Is she a part of this story? Or just take her out of it, but don't try to thread a needle on something of this nature because you don't have the intestinal fortitude to do such.
Well, I mean, I don't know. The thing of it being that they want to torch this thing, but then at the same time, you don't keep the person that that might get some negative backlash or get some boos in the audience from somebody. Ultimately, to go to what you're saying, the hard part of the Danny that sort of that '70s show, his rape case, is that the hard part is that when this was turned off for the actors in that '70s show. They some supported him, but ultimately they didn't take the show and try to sink it. They just let the show rock. The show was played, the jokes and gags from him, and ultimately, we've seen it when it came to Cosby Show, that they wanted the cast to either, break ties, and they especially wanted Camille Cosby and Felicia Rashad to say something against Cosby, right? But we had a situation with, with the Danny guy that his friends were, and the show itself was allowed to rock. So I can't back any of this late day, complaints about Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher and all that stuff because they didn't keep the same energy. They woke up in the morning and decided, hey, we got an issue now. And Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis's PR person said, hey, you should apologize and then get attacked. But at the same time, to go with what you're saying, other thing was that she didn't get do a crime that's actionable. You might find her despicable, but it's not anything out of the realm of actors and actresses, that sort of things. And lying. The thing of that, we have politicians are taught to lie. It's not, it is something that when people are caught, but sometimes you can lie and not be caught by it. At the same time, there's a lot of people which you move by, but it's not something you keep on and hold on to. And at the same time, if you want this thing to end, just end it with not just saying we're going to justify our salaries, cutting down more portions of her part because we can't figure a way out of it. We got this whole family thing, but we're not going to show her in the house. and the other side of it, this baby being a portion of, like, similar to, actually, because Submariner came first. The same idea that Submariner was raised down in what's the name? And no, in the comics, the baby was raised down in the underwater, and Black Manta's a guy, I don't know, I don't want to get into that. That's a little too much. I don't want to go there because who knows if that's in the plot. But the baby, his baby was raised down in in Atlantis. So that aspect of this. Now, ultimately, like the character that didn't have he was Arthur Curry. They didn't play up the dual identity. He was just a superhero, like 24/7. Like now, Aquaman gets the dual identity or dual lifestyle, and it's like that wasn't really an arc of his to have. So it's like this stuff that we should be seeing more for some other characters. We get to see with Aquaman now. So it's like but this is a superhero dynamic. It's just not necessary. But this, I guess, is their Aquaman is a different Aquaman altogether. It's not the Peter David one. It's this guy who's kind of, it's like the I guess the Savage Namor period where he's kind of lost and unconnected to his past. So I just can't. I can't go into it. I can't factor in all this stuff with this late day stuff because they didn't have the same energy when it came to the Cosby Show. We had to not watch the Cosby Show entirely. They wanted everyone to say something, and then now they wake up and they decide, oh, Topher Grace, he's great because he didn't say anything. He stood firm, and you can't turn these people to heroes or bad guys just because you're going to turn this narrative. But it's off topic, but at the same time, it's sad. Amber was in the movie. She was a big part for me, even though whatever her personal life and that sort of stuff, go watch that Nutty thing if you want to on Netflix. At the same time, it makes both look terrible, and it's really hard for me to even the little bits of the court case I watched. I couldn't stand. It was really hard to watch because it was just so much bad on both sides. But hey, people like Johnny Depp a little more, so.
Yeah, like all those man, I don't want to call out the YouTuber's name, but they had whole sites that were dedicated to the defense of Johnny Depp. And the
Yeah.
biggest crime, what was the biggest thing? If there was never anything to counteract what she said, Johnny Depp would still be in the toilet. He was the first thing they did was to square up and dunk him right in and try to give him a swirly, and then it became, oh, wait a second, wait, oh, he's okay, and then they just ran after her instead of saying, look, this is not your business, just stay out of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. The thing of it is, it was definitely bad divorce, and then when you have all this climate where you ride, she, with lack of no pun intended, she was riding the wave. So when she started speaking, she was saying, threw it in with the rest of the stuff, and then of course, you have to remember, they had some people that were, just like Chris Brown. He had people that defenders, and I don't even know Chris Brown should have had defenders, but they were out there. And at the same time, Johnny Depp also pushed back, and then it turned into what it was, where I guess she has to pay what he pays, or she has to pay $9 million. He has to pay like $2 million or something like that. Ultimately, she lost. And now it's like we got to destroy her career because of what she lied on somebody, and this is
that's the biggest problem that I have with this whole thing, where it's not enough. Okay, she loses the case. I think that's the fair thing that should happen when the truth comes out. It's because no, you can never work again, and why? Why? That's going to be up to that should be up to directors, so on and so forth. But this person has to be. I mean, I guess the right word for cancel is this person has to be ruined.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Ultimately, this person has to be ruined by who? By a public that has not been affected by her at all. In the name of in the name of New Age morality, where we're not going to forget or forgive anything, and you're going to pay for this until the end. And nobody wants to be treated like that. So it's unfortunate that sort of mentality has I mean, I thought she was really good in the first movie. I really liked her in the first movie, but me, pretty privilege all day long. So I thought she was good in the first movie. And I'm like, okay, if you don't want her in the second movie, don't have her in the second movie. Just, pay her since she was contracted to do it, or whatever scenes, cut the scenes. What would they normally do? Just kill the character off and go. But then it's like, okay, we're gonna like, try to do these little sprinkles here, or she's been abducted, so we're not gonna see her most of the movie until the very end. It's so cowardly at the end of the day when you have the power to make whatever decision when you have the power to make whatever decision that you want, and like, it's like running for president. Nobody votes for the vice president, in terms of who's going to get elected president. Amber Heard was not going to sink this movie when Jason Momoa is the lead.
Yeah, no, it's uh yes, and I guess because the film hasn't come out the same with like the Flash, you'd be like, hey, we can just redo everything. We can just do a whole new story. We can do this, and they didn't do all of that. Obviously, they just said we're going to keep cutting around her part every time we get into the edit. They give the note. The scene isn't really working. What do you think we can do? Can you trim some of the tail with the part with her in it? Yeah, just trim some of that. I just want to see an edit. Oh, you know what? It works a lot better. We'll come back next week. It's something still. This other scene. And keep trimming her as if they don't like. Yeah. He gained it at the end, and she was the girlfriend. I guess they wanted to stick with this him being a father thing, so can't really get around. Can't for the audience. The same like all of the Ethan Hunt's girlfriends in the movies. Like people are, asking, what about Andy Newton? When is she going to show back up? That sort of thing. So
Never
this
showing
is the
back up
thing.
because she was in that horrible movie with Eddie Murphy.
What movie is that?
Was that Norville?
But come on, she was also in Westworld, which is like the biggest thing for a while. So,
Not as That's not as big as that movie with Eddie Murphy was bad. That was a bad movie.
But no. So ultimately, this thing looks good. Um, check it out. Maybe people don't want you to check it out, so they'd be like, we don't want to have to do a third one. And if you think that they may turn him into the Lobo of the new DC universe, that might be a hit for them too. So it'd be kind of the business model is to throw all the stuff out, even if it's working, for all the new stuff that's coming. And that's never been a really good business model, but that's how they work. So this is the last thing of the old, and then maybe we'll start seeing some new stuff coming out from Warner Brothers.
The first new thing is the Superman movie, so there's nothing new before that.
And that's what, a year from now.
2025.
Yeah, that's a while. And that's going to be with everybody and his brother with Superman. We got our Booster Gold. We got who else is going to be in it? Side note, we can talk about
Terrific. So was it Booster Gold, Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl so far?
So Booster Gold's actually going to be in this thing.
Oh, Guy Gardner.
Oh yeah, Guy Gardner. So side note, since it's still, someone had a whole bunch of old FFs, and they had Booster Gold #1, right? And I was like, and they were my friends are cheering on Booster Gold #1. I'm like, really? He's like, well, he had the what's the name? He had the Legionnaire ring. I'm like, well, he kind of stole it. It was kind of like, what if Flash Thompson became a superhero and he went into the future and stole all this stuff? Like he seemed like a D-bag. Like, how do you feel about Booster Gold as a character?
My introduction to the character was that he was this guy who was he's pretty much in a dead end job in the future and decided, hey, if I steal this stuff and go back, I can make some money. And that was always the character. That was the way he was always executed. And his interactions with Superman was always Superman looking at him like, oh man, this guy again? Like, Booster, what are you because the original series, if you read like I would say like the first 12 issues, everything was a scheme so he could make some money.
Mm-hmm.
He was saving people, and then like, okay, yeah, buy some Booster Gold shades, buy Booster Gold sneakers. He was doing all of this branding at that time that would have been considered, that would have been considered just okay. We don't do this. This is not socially correct, where now people just do this commonplace at the end of the day. So that was the take I always had on the character. But I think more people warmed up to him once he became a member of the when he it was him and it was the dynamic between him and Blue Beetle on the Justice League, because
Yeah, but
his book didn't run that long, but that dynamic between him and Ted Kord, Blue Beetle, on the Ted Kord Blue Beetle on the Justice League, I think that's where people might have more familiarity with him and warm up to him. But in terms of how they're going to portray him in this film, I don't know where that falls, because we've seen a lot of characters at this point, and few of them have definitive characteristics, personalities. A lot of them, they want the humor, so almost everybody can quip, that sort of stuff. Even Batman will throw like some wry wit here and there. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do with Booster Gold once they, appear over here, unless they really go hard with the original stuff, where he was just like, no, this. If he takes branding to the next level, where it's really, it'll be almost be like slapstick. That might actually win some points overall with the film. But this film, the Superman film, has its work cut out for him, because it needs to be a hit. You got these extra characters they're putting in the movie. I don't know why, but hey, we'll see what happens, right? Back to Aquaman. Looking forward to seeing this one. The visuals very good. The visuals are very good. Aside of the only nitpick I have is the everyman elements at the end of the day, which I think are needless for a character like this. But they throw them in. Jason Momoa seems to make the whole thing work, so I'm looking forward to seeing this.
all right then. Closing us out, spin rack.
We're out.